am honored to be invited to address the class of 2007. To the graduates, congratulations upon this day. Your talent and perseverance have brought you to this milestone, and you are to be commended for it. Your families and friends are here, and they are very proud. Savor the moment, savor this day, because it cannot be repeated. Some of you are sad to be leaving. Others are downright giddy at the thought of getting out of here. Regardless of how you feel now, over the years, your emotional attachment to this place will only deepen, and you will find yourselves drawn back many times. You are fortunate to have studied here. We are blessed with a lot of great universities in this country, but few can match the history and tradition and prestige and beauty and setting of the University of Virginia. You're indeed fortunate. In the past 15 years, I have been privileged to deliver a few college commencement speeches, and each time I accept an invitation, I always ask the school to go to the archives and research some stuff for me and give me the record for the shortest commencement speech at that particular school. And then during commencement, I announce what the record is and then promise to break it. And this goes over real well. Thank you. Thank you. It always gets a lot of applause. And I am proud to say I hold a number of records for brevity. However, at the University of Virginia, such records are not kept. I inquired, I pushed pretty hard, a thorough search was conducted, but simply for some reason these records do not exist. It's obviously a breakdown somewhere in the administration. And by now, the buck has been passed all the way back to Mr. Jefferson himself. As we know, that happens all the time around here. But don't worry. I don't take this as a license to speak for an hour. I don't like long speeches. I know you are not in the mood for one. So whatever the record is here today, there'll be a new one tomorrow, I guess. Commencement speeches are usually full of wisdom and advice, and no speech is ever complete without the platitudes such as, "The future is yours and the world is at your feet." I don't give advice. I mean, if I had more time, I might fall into that trap and say such important things, but I really don't give advice. It's easy to give, it's easy to digest, but rarely is it followed. I used to give a speech called that I call the top 10 reasons you should stay in college until you are 30 years old. Yeah. It was always well received. It was humorous, had a touch of wisdom to it, but I stopped giving it because no one's listening. I mean, let's face it, you're done, you're finished, you're out of here. You can't wait to start your careers, and that's the way it ought to be. Plus, the hate mail from the parents had gotten really ugly. I mean, so I stopped that speech. What I'm going to do is pass along 3 lessons I have learned in the past 30 years. I hope I've learned more than 3 things, but I'm just going to share 3 with you. These are not connected. They're totally random, but sadly, that's the way I think, and I just can't help it. 30 years ago this week, I graduated from college, class of 1977. I don't recall much about my commencement. I do remember that the speaker was dull and long-winded, and he did inform us that the future was ours and the world was at our feet. I do remember sitting through my commencement being pretty smug. I was graduating from college. I'd been accepted to law school. Law school, you're supposed to explode law school with laughter. Learned that from Tom Farrell. I'd been accepted to law school, All right. That's the last time. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to study tax law. I was going to become a tax lawyer. Okay, all right, knock it off. That's why people hate lawyers, okay? You just keep it. Okay. This could really get out of hand, couldn't it? All right, let's knock it off. I wanted to be a tax lawyer because I was convinced that I could make a lot of money representing wealthy people who did not want to pay all their taxes. And that was my dream, and I had it all planned. I mean, I knew the day I was going to start law school, the day I was going to finish. I had a pretty good idea where my office was going to be. It was all planned. I don't know where this idea came from. I did not like tax law. I sure didn't know any wealthy people. And I don't know, looking back, I cannot begin to remember where this idea was planted, but that was my dream. I had everything planned. The idea of writing a book had never crossed my mind. I had never written anything that wasn't required by school. I don't know. I'd never dreamed of it. Lesson number one. You cannot plan the rest of your life. Okay? We love to plan things. In our culture, it's all planned. It's all written down. Our daily calendars, our monthly planners. We put all this stuff in our laptops and smartphones and Blackberries. We plan everything. We waste so much time making plans, and the plans don't work because life has other plans. John Lennon said, "Life is what happens while you're making all of those plans." Think about today and tomorrow, next week maybe. Have a goal. Don't confuse planning with dreaming. Dreaming is a worthy pastime. Planning is a waste. The class of 1977 survived Vietnam. We grew up with Vietnam. At first, we were good patriots, and we were told it was a just war, and we believed that. As we grew older, we grew to fear it. As we got closer to the draft age, we really began to fear this war. And then we grew to hate it as it dragged on for 10 years and tore our country apart. And every member of the class of 1977 knew someone, a cousin, a kid down the street, the quarterback on our high school football team, 3 years older. We all knew someone who went to Vietnam and came home in a box. 58,000 boxes. We were told it was necessary to protect our interest. We were told that we had to attack communism before it found us. We were told we were winning and winning and winning, and more troops were needed. As the war dragged on and grew worse, so did the lying. Lesson number two. When politicians get the itch to go to war, don't believe much of what they say. Number three. During our freshman year in college, a truly unique and traumatic and frightening event happened in our country. Oil was embargoed for the first time, and for a nation addicted to cheap gasoline, we couldn't get it. Service stations had limited supplies or none. There was rationing, long lines trying to get to the stations, hot tempers, folks were furious. The refineries had nothing to refine, the reserves were empty. The nation panicked. It was very frightening. And for the next 3 years in college, we listened to these fierce debates about cutting off our dependence on foreign oil, creating a sensible energy policy, developing alternative fuels, conservation. The same rhetoric that we hear today, except this was long before we ever heard the term global warming. Lesson number three. Your generation must have the courage to save the environment because prior generations did not.